You're ready.
So I think the problem with the development is that we're looking at it as one large effort. In truth, it's four distinct pieces. One is that there's open space that they're attempting to change the usage of. It already has usage that is for retail. They're looking to expand that. The second is transportation. The proposed master plan affects Light Street, Pratt Street, and when they have a traffic study completed, we'll find that it affects things that are beyond that even. In addition, some of the renderings show portions of a light rail, which implies that they're looking at, the red line as part of this. That's a whole separate, item. That is something that they have very little control over and has a completely different time frame. The other piece is the retail component. This is what they have currently at Harborplace. They're proposing expanding that, and they're proposing making it 2 stories, and they're proposing having it in a way that has similar usage. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And they've done some pretty nice work when it comes to landscape design, civil engineering, everything at the ground plane that they've shown. There's a lot of benefits that we need to take advantage of. There are a whole subset of other issues that affect what this development will do. And the most important thing about all of this taken as a whole is folks are seeing this as just 2 pots of money. There's the private portion, there's a public portion related to transportation and open space. We're paying a lot of money for these things. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not a thing that can be done quickly. It's not a thing that you can get approvals of in a very fast, linear way, the way that they're proposing. And then the private piece, one of the issues about the private piece is that at some point when they meet, the private portion, the public portion, and the retail that sits underneath it, at some point you are restricted. You are currently not restricted in any way from accessing those pavilions and the open space. There's certainly hours of operation that you get shushed away on, but there'll come a point at which on this site all of us will be asked to move along if we decide to infringe on that space. Same is true for the commercial building that's proposed in between the Sale building and the World Trade Center. That is massive imposition on what this was set out to do. Master planning for the Inner Harbor has gone on for generations. If you go back and look at Inner Harbor Master Plan number 1, it put a heavy emphasis on open space. And it pulled back all the taller buildings to the other side of the street, and it kept the lower buildings along the harbor that made it inviting, made it a democratic waterfront. The focus was on the waterfront. Inner Harbor 2.0 is a fantastic solution. It takes the approach that at the corner of Light and Pratt Street, that it's low, that folks can filter through, see the water, access the water, and benefit from it. It's all about the water. There's been proposals in and around it that do the same thing. It's very rare that you see something that has a private usage proposed. There's a quote that MCB has been using where Mayor McKeldin says that he envisioned an Inner Harbor that was free to the public, and it had open space and commercial and retails and towers that were around the Inner Harbor. They love that quote. They start with that quote in some of the public sessions that they've had, but they leave out an important piece. And that's McKeldin was thinking broadly about the development. He wasn't thinking about Harborplace. He was thinking about the Inner Harbor and the opportunities that were available and the entirety of it. And when it led to the master planning, it pushed these taller buildings with different uses across Light and across Pratt.
And you think they should stay there?
They should stay there. I think a lot of folks see this as a bunch of dewy-eyed, sort of pining for the past, that we are somehow hugging the Harborplace pavilions. That's not the case. I think that most people realize that there needs to be work done there. That doesn't mean that it's got bad bones. The building's actually in fair shape. It could be repurposed, but it's not that. It's not us being pining for the old days. It's us asking for them to do something that is another precedent-setting development. What's being proposed, frankly, set the precedent for what was done in Washington, D.C. They've got a great waterfront development. It's very successful, has a lot of the components that you see here. But I'd hate to think that what is groundbreaking in Baltimore was groundbreaking in Washington, D.C. 5 or 10 years ago, that we're following an example. That's not breaking the mold. That's not what the spirit of this project should be. Rouse set the tone of this, McKeldin set the tone of this, other business leaders set the tone of this when they kicked this all off with the Trout Center project and having it migrate down to the Inner Harbor. That's what we should be thinking. We should be thinking broader. We should be thinking about the entirety of how the Inner Harbor is used.
So a true master plan.
A true master plan. I think a few are actually out there that the city paid for that does it very well. Smart people thought about these things. There's folks in the design community. There's folks who are in the development community. I've met folks at MCB. Very, very smart, capable people. And they understand what they're doing. And they understand that it's a change that it's not necessarily precedent setting. It's instead, it's providing places for folks to profit from. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's providing places for folks to profit from on open space that's supposed to be dedicated to public usage.
For the people of Baltimore, not just for people that can afford to walk into a locked building with a key code and feel like they're protected from the outside world.
Specifically for the folks of Baltimore. I know that we're appealing to people who are from beyond. That's an important piece.
The tourism.
But the focus should be on who's using it day to day.
Agree.
We have to approach development in that manner. There's constituents that you should listen to. They're telling you right now what they want. Don't believe that all those things are being listened to. I would hope that that would be the development somehow as the process continues forward. We have a lot of steps in this. When we go through approvals in architecture, it's not just one and you're off to the races. We're off to a couple of years of approvals and public intervention, whether it's voting or.
So why do you think they didn't start doing those approvals and those studies 2.5 years ago when they were first dreaming up this design?
That I don't know. On a smaller scale, when we work with clients, we start off very broad. We do studies, we do these site analysis diagrams, and even models, and we find out what the opportunities and constraints are. In some instances, we might have water's edges that don't allow you a thing. You might have, a street that doesn't allow you to do something. There's the property itself that might not allow you to go to the edge. There's height restrictions. There's setback restrictions for light and air. We usually go through that in an iterative fashion. What you see first is diagrammatic. And we present that to the client, we present that to the public. They get an opportunity to comment on it, understand it in detail, and then you progress. You take that and you start chipping away at that volume that you've created. You start chipping away at it like it's a piece of marble. You start to develop it, and bit by bit, it becomes a thing that everyone understands. You saw it from its inception. This game fully formed. Renderings can be deceptive. We do them very well early on. They can be deceptive. What gets built, in fact, probably won't look exactly what what you've been showed to date. But they've out of the box done something that's so complete looking that it's head scratching. It's puzzling. I suppose that it's because you want to get ahead of approvals.
Because of the referendum.
Yeah, referendum, we're all going to be voting on this thing come November.
Those only come around every 2 years.
Yeah. So, getting ahead of that is important. But I don't know what happened at the inception of this. I understand that it was the result of a competition of some kind. I don't know what that competition is. I'm in the community. We monitor these things. I don't know where it was determined that this was an award-winning design. It's puzzling to me. There's a lot of questions. Yeah.
Well, thanks for exploring some of that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Enjoy the Inner Harbor.
Mm-hmm.